Morning, all of you. So today we have assembled to fill up the DAF 1. Till last year, an IAS aspirant had to fill up the application form at 3 stages. The one at the time of applying for the preliminary test, which was a very simple form of just only 1 page. Then after having passed the preliminary test, the aspirants were asked to fill up their DAP 1, Detailed Application Form 1, in which much of the basic details were given by the students. And at the third stage, after having passed the main examination, and for those candidates who have been called for the interview, the DAP 2 was to be filled up. But because of certain allegations of corruptions, misleading information given by some aspirants, the UPSC now has changed the pattern of filling up the form from this year onwards. And at 2 stages, now you have to fill up the form. At the time of applying for the prelim itself, which is called DAF 1, and after having passed the main examination, that filling up DAF 2. So now we will see, since you are all digitally comfortable in filling up the forms, most columns that you will be able to fill up without much difficulties. But there are certain columns where you may need some assistance to fill up the specific items, mostly in the form of hobbies, extracurricular activities column that you need some assistance to fill up, because what you write here will be very important for your interview purpose. But of course, the UPSC gives you a window period of about 20 days for you to change the entries against some of the columns after the main exam results are announced. So still, but not all columns can be changed by you during that window period of 20 days that is available after the main examination results are announced. So mostly these the DAF 2 columns that they can be changed. So we will see one by one the specific columns that you may need to fill up. Further, in order to meet your specific requirements in filling up certain columns where you may have certain personal doubts, we have a dedicated team of mentors who can assist you to fill up these columns later. So Mr. Samarjit Mishra and Mr. Nagarjuna and a few more mentors are available for you for consultation. You can later consult them as well. Right. Now the first part of this is, so you have to fill up the name as per the name recorded in your 10th standard mark sheet. So there are certain documents which are compulsory for you to submit to the UPSC. The first of that is 10th standard mark sheet. The 10th standard mark sheet is the only proof of your name and your date of birth. The UPSC does not accept any other date of birth that you produce. It accepts only the date of birth as recorded in your 10th standard mark sheet. So because of this, write your name as it is recorded in the 10th standard mark sheet. And the date of birth also, you should write only the date of birth that is recorded on the 10th standard mark sheet. Then this year, against the gender column, the UPSC has introduced a small change. Till last year, against the gender column, that there were 3 columns: male, female, others. But this year, the UPSC has introduced male, female, and transgenders. So you can accordingly fill up. Then the next important column where there may be certain doubts for you is the minorities category, minority status category. There are 6 religious minorities, and you have to indicate one of the minorities to which that you belong. So it is easy for you to fill up. However, for those who belong to the Muslim and Christian faith, that you have to be careful about filling this, because in the Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims, they are not entitled to receive scheduled caste reservation facilities. So those scheduled caste persons who had converted to Islam or Christianity can apply only under the OBC classification, OBC reservation facilities, not under the scheduled caste facilities. So it is in this respect that this column, minority status column, is important, but otherwise that it is easy for others to select and mark it. So there had been instances where Dalit Christians who got into IAS under the scheduled caste category were dismissed from service 10 years after having joined the service. So because of this, be careful about filling up this column. Don't write anything that can be misleading. Then about these achievements, prizes, medals, etc. Yes, that is the hobby column. I will come to you. That is the column where I am going to talk for more time. Now, there is another important fact relating to the claim for reservations. Those candidates that who come under the reservation category have to be careful about filling up this column. The column says whether you belong to physically handicapped, EWS, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and the OBC category. Now, there are candidates who are OBCs as per the caste to which they belong. However, that they may be the creamy layer, they may come under the creamy layer unless that they are not eligible to enjoy OBC reservation facility. But this category of candidate, should they straight away mark themselves as general category candidate, or should they mark themselves as OBC candidates? When it comes to cadre allotment after you qualify finally in the civil services exam and allotted to IAS or IPS, that there are the seats allotted for cadre allocation on the basis of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, and general categorization. And if by chance the year in which that you qualify into the IAS, if the insider vacancy in your state is for OBCs, and even if you belong to creamy layer, but if you are a OBC candidate, you are eligible for OBC classification for getting home cadre. So because of this, I suggest while filling up the reservation category, if you belong to OBC by way of your caste classification, write as OBC. And even if you come under the creamy layer concept, you mark it as OBC. Do not mark yourself as a general candidate. However, there are certain other columns wherein that do you belong to creamy layer or not. There you mention creamy layer if you belong to the creamy layer concept, so that you will not come under creamy layer, come under the OBC classification. Further, for this current year, a candidate may be under the creamy layer classification, and thus he may not be eligible to enjoy OBC reservation facility. However, in the following years, for example, if the father has retired from service and the income level falls below 8 lakh rupees per annum, that a OBC creamy layer candidate in the previous year may be eligible to take the OBC reservation facilities in the subsequent years. For these 2 years, that is to make yourself eligible for cadre allocation under OBC category later, and also to enjoy the OBC reservation facilities in the subsequent years, that please mark yourself as OBC candidate if you belong to OBC category as per your caste classification. Even if you come under the creamy layer concept this year, do not mark yourself as a general candidate under this column. So am I clear to you all? Yes. So this is a very important point which you should not miss. Right. Now, what kind of photograph are you going to upload? Now, many candidates that they just upload any photograph even in casual attire. But now I suggest that you choose the photograph in the attire in which you are going to appear before the interview board. Either in the male candidates in suit with a tie, or at least with a tie that you should attach your photograph there. Because the same photograph, if you add it to DAP2 application form, it will be more appropriate. Accordingly, for the girl candidates, that either the North Indian suit or a sari would be most appropriate attire for the photograph in which you are going to upload. So that is about it. And by the way, while writing your email, be careful. Do not write a funny or fancy email like mad@ias@gmail.com, firstidiot@gmail.com. So there are candidates who had written like this at the prelim stage, which continued, and they lost their sleep on the eve of their interview. So because of this, that choose a normal email which you are going to enter. Now, what about the uploading of the documents relating to 10th standard mark sheet, graduation certificate, etc.? The caste certificate for the SC and SC/ST candidates, the non-creamy layer certificate, etc. Whatever documents that you want to upload, including documents in support of the hobby column items, that bundle them up all together into a single group and upload all of them as a single bundle. You can upload documents up to 1 MB, and do not make the documents, uploading the documents as individual documents. So club them all together into a single bundle, and all of them you can upload them as a single page. So bundle them and make it into one PDF. So it is really a tedious task for you to fill up those many pages, but fill up all the columns carefully, check yourself twice, and thereafter ask some elderly person who has some knowledge of going through these forms to check it up, and don't make any mistakes. For example, Shruti Sharma, who got All India first rank in the year 2022, in the year when she filled her form for the 2021 exam, that by mistake she had indicated as her language medium for the main examination as Hindi. At the time when she submitted the DAP1, she did not realize her mistake. When the admission ticket came on the eve of the main examination, she was shocked to find that her language medium for the main examination was Hindi. She spent more than a week in running from pillar to post in approaching the UPSC to get it changed to the English medium. But the UPSC didn't budge, and it will not budge in the future also. And she took the main examination in Hindi medium. And next year that she was so careful in filling her form, and maybe that in her preparation, and she got All India first rank. So what is important is that by oversight that you may make mistakes. So because of this, that get your form filled by others. So, and get it checked with others. So that's very important for you. Right, now we come to the hobby column. Probably it is the most important column in the entire DAP 1, because as I said earlier, that is this column is the feedback to the board members, interview board members, to ask questions. Moreover, this is a personality test, not a test for your language, the interview test. And not for your language skill and not for your knowledge skill, but it is to understand the kind of personality that you possess. And it is the hobby column that actually tells the board members the activities, the non-curricular activities in which you had participated during your school and college days. And how varied were you in your living before during your school and college days. So because of this reveals a lot about your personality. And many times that the interview may begin with questions related to the hobby column. Normally that the chairman does not engage the candidate for long. He just asks few questions to warm up, and thereafter passes the candidate to the other 4 members of the board to examine. And he may just ask few questions on the hobby column and pass you on to the other one. The first 5 minutes of your interview are going to be the most crucial period of your interview, because if the opening questions are answered well, it sets a good equation with the board, and the opening answers that you give, they also set the precedence for the next 25 minutes to pass before the interview board, and you also grow in confidence. And because of this, that you should prepare for your hobby column very well. If you are not able to answer questions on international relations, it is okay. If you fail in your knowledge skill, it doesn't matter much. But if you fail in your own the hobby column, where you have written the column yourself, that it may not go well with the board. Because of this, you have to take extreme care in filling up this hobby column. Further, this hobby column is not a place for listing all your achievements during your school and college. It is merely an invitation for the board to ask questions. And do not leave the job of filtering these columns and selecting the columns for the board to ask questions. Therefore, do not write all the achievements that you have made during your school and college days here. On a separate sheet of paper, you write all your achievements against these 4 columns: prizes, medals, scholarships won, then second, sports, HCC participation, third, positions of distinction or leadership held, fourth, hobbies and other interests. These are the 4 sub-columns that are included under the overall hobby column. So write down all those achievements that you have made during your school and college days against these 4 sub-columns. Thereafter, apply your mind and see that which of them are worth mentioning in the application. For example, there is no point writing down class monitor at 5th standard, whereas it is worth mentioning school people leader. So at your 12th standard, that you are the chosen student leader for the whole school. So therefore, that weigh the importance of what you want to write, and write only those things that will be interesting to the board members. My suggestion is write minimum two entries against each column, each sub-column, minimum 2. Because your hobby column should not also look very sparse. It should not look very blank, meaning thereby that you did not have an active life in the form of extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities, etc. And at the same time, there should not be too many columns confusing the board members, and they don't have the time to do the filtering job while sitting at the interview. So because of this, minimum 2 entries against each subcolumn and a maximum of 3 or 4 entries against each subcolumn. So don't crowd the column, crowd the hobby column with too many entries, and you have to choose what are the columns against which what you are going to write. And while writing the hobby column, be specific. Instead of writing reading as the hobby, where many students would be writing the same thing that the board may not get interested much. But be specific about what type of reading do you do. For example, if you write reading techno thrillers, so more than you, the board member becomes interested to know what is this techno thrillers. And thus that you are attracting the board member to a particular question on which you can prepare much in advance. So reading crime thrillers. So likewise, be specific in writing the hobby column. So your hobby column should be very compact in its filling, but it should not look sparse also. So be careful about this. Write down this hobby column, and do not write a hobby thinking that in the next 10 months or so that you will be able to prepare a hobby. There is a difference between having a theoretical knowledge about a hobby and having experienced that hobby by following it. And in the questioning, if the board somehow finds out that you had not practiced this hobby, that it may not go down well with the board. So because of this, as far as possible, don't think that you'll be able to prepare a hobby and write something for the time being here. Write hobbies that you have practiced. Now, suppose if there are not many hobbies columns to be filled up, items to be filled up. For example, you don't have many hobbies, interest. What to do? Instead of leaving it blank, you write nothing in particular. So nothing in particular means that later you can say that there had been certain the interest that you pursued, but not to a level where you could call it as a hobby. So instead of putting a dash against this, it is better to write nothing in particular, because after all, that even watching movies can be discussed as part of this nothing in particular. So don't leave that hobby completely blank. Right. And by the way, it is against this column, you may need the counseling with the mentoring team available at the institute. You write down your hobby columns, whatever that you can there, and sit and discuss with the mentors later. Yeah, this center for examination, then the language medium for examination I have already discussed. Yes, now the next is service preference. What are the services that you are going to indicate? Of course, that this column can also be changed during those 20 days of the window period that will be available to you. You can change your service preferences. Service preference essentially is your personal preference. It is ultimately your personal choice. You should not end up in a service in which you don't have much liking. So therefore that you make your choice. But at the same time, we can give you some general idea about the career growth and development with regard to many of these services. In my opinion, there is no better service than the IAS in terms of career growth and development. Because, for example, there are 54 departments to the Government of India. Of these, 49 departments are headed by IAS officers as secretaries to these departments. Only 5 departments do not have IAS officers, like Department of Science and Technology, Department of Atomic Energy, where the experts, they are appointed as the secretaries. So because of this, that there is the promotional avenues available for the IAS officers are steady right from the deputy secretary level to the under secretary level to the secretary to the Government of India. Further, an IAS officer can get even foreign assignments. Whereas if somebody opts for IFS, there is only one foreign secretary against 49 secretaries to the various departments of the government, which are filled up by the IAS officers. So moreover, there is a time-bound promotional avenues that are guaranteed in the IAS. So because of this, you may have your personal choice, you may like to travel around, and you may indicate IFS your first choice, but I am just informing you about the career possibilities. Further, in IPS, that the career growth and development in terms of promotion after IG level is very limited. There is only one DGP law and order in each state. But there are so many secretaries to the various departments of the state government as well who are IAS officers. So the first service that I indicate for you is IAS. The second is IFS or IPS, as you wish. The third one will be IPS or IFS. Many students leave out IFS and give preference 5th, 6th, 7th preference. And if there is an IFS officer sitting over there as a member, that he may ask you why no IFS. Giving 5th preference to IFS actually means telling no to IFS. Because for the rank you get, if you do not get the 4th preference of service, you are not going to get the IFS for the same rank. So because of this, that be careful, do not give too low a positional preference to the IFS for this reason. Then the fourth is IRS. These days, students prefer customs and GST over IRS income tax. The reason is, with the introduction of the faceless assessment system in the IRS, there is loss of territorial jurisdiction. Earlier, an IFS officer, the IRS officer, income tax officer, was given a particular territorial jurisdiction over which he was the assessing officer. So there was an identification he can carry, yes, this is my territorial area of jurisdiction. Nowadays, with the faceless assessment system, that this territorial jurisdiction concept has disappeared. So because of this, that they feel it is less powerful now these days. And there is a lot of paperwork to do, because the assessees now have to present the case primarily in the form of documents. And there is a lot of workload that has increased. Maybe this is the reason why that the IRS income tax has become less popular as compared to customs. But however, that there is also a proposal to introduce faceless assessment system in the IRS GST as well. I do not know when it is going to happen, but it might happen later also. Then the sixth is Indian Audit and Account Service. So Indian Audit and Account Service is a very decent service. Mostly you get the postings in the cities and it is a very peaceful service. Then the seventh is Indian Railway Management Service, under which from this year onwards you can indicate the railway traffic service, the railway account service, railway personnel service. For female candidate, the railway traffic service may be a more demanding job. For the first 10 to 12 years of postings in the Indian Railway Traffic Service, that there are no fixed work hours. So an IRTS officer may have to go on duty at 5 in the morning or at 7 in the morning. There are no fixed hours. So because of this, that the female candidates may choose in the order of these three preferences according to your own liking. IRTS is a demanding job in terms of work hours in the beginning. Then the next is students used to write Defense Estate Service, Indian Defense Estate Service. But recently, about a month or so back, the Prime Minister talked about dissolving the cantonment areas and merging them with the nearby municipalities. And because of this service may start losing its importance, because Defense Estate Service was more or less like the job performed by a district magistrate, but in over a smaller area of a cantonment. But now that kind of administrative nature of the job may disappear, and because of this, I prefer Defense Account Service. It's a better service. Then you can write Indian Civil Account Service. Our Civil Account Service may be given a seventh preference also according to your choice. Then the 12th one is Indian Trade Service. Indian Trade Service. And 13, the Indian Corporate Law Service. So these are the major services. What about DANICs and DANIPs? These are Group B services. Should they be given a higher preference or at the end? For candidates coming from Western Europe, Haryana, Rajasthan, that DANIPs may be a preferable service because it is nearer home. And after about 15 years of service, that the DANIPs officers are promoted as IAS officers. They are conferred with the IAS. The DANIPs officers are conferred with IPS. But the problem is, for 2/3 of the time, these DANIPs officers will be posted in Delhi. For about 1/3 of their career, they will have to work in Ladakh, Andamans, Northeast, etc. But the nature of the job performed by them is similar to what an IAS officer performs. So for those who come from closer to Delhi, this can be a better service. So the other service choices you can make after having talked to the mentor. For example, students coming from the south, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, they prefer Pondicherry Civil Service, Pondicherry Police Service, and give a relatively higher position to them. So these are the major things. Now there is one, that socio-economic questionnaire, that also you have to fill up. The UPSC makes it clear the information that you reveal under this socio-economic questionnaire column will not be placed before the interview board, and it is only for the UPSC to collect data about why the students prefer the various services, civil services, etc. However, my experience had been different. So one candidate from Maharashtra had in the socio-economic questionnaire column had written against the column, have you ever taken coaching? And he had written yes, that he had taken coaching from the free coaching program conducted by the Maharashtra government. Now in the interview, that one of the members asked the candidate, have you ever taken coaching? He said, yes, I have taken coaching. So in the meanwhile, the chairperson started digging into his file and he said, yes, he has taken coaching, he has mentioned it. This suggests that even your socio-economic questionnaire column sheet is placed before the chairman of the board. The entire file belonging to you is placed before the chairman of the board, probably because of this, that he may look into what is written against your socio-economic column sheet as well. Because of this, that be careful about what you write, don't lie. If you have taken coaching, that you mention that you have taken coaching. So, why you prefer IAS or why you prefer the civil services? So one of the columns says power, authority, leadership, etc. So which if the chairman by chance gets to know about it, that it may not go well with them. So similarly, that prestige, social status. So these columns should be avoided. And what is to be written is, you can write, for example, public service / utility to the society. Then second, diversity / challenges. Better service conditions and advancement in career. So likewise, that the neutral choices that you can indicate, so that even by chance that the chairperson of the board gets to see your sheet, that he may not have a negative view about you. So be careful, don't just write whatever that comes to your mind, thinking that after all that it is only an exercise in data collection, but it may not be so. Then select reasons for choosing different optional subjects. Of course, if the academic subject is not included in the UPSC syllabus, fine. So you have to indicate one choice, whatever choice that you want to make, you can. General interest or aptitude in a particular subject which you want to choose as the optional for the civil services exam. Or high scoring, easy to prepare, and available material and coaching. Then related with the academic subject that you have studied at the college level. Course content relevant to the social life and family life. Then optional subject useful for the study of general studies papers. So likewise, that any of these choices that you can indicate. So these are the major issues that I wanted to discuss. Now, if you have any particular the doubts relating to filling up this column, if you have already gone through the DAF1 sheet, then you can raise, I will answer. Otherwise, that after having done the basic exercise, you can meet the mentors. Yes. You took what class? No, I don't follow. Spanish. Oh, Spanish classes. Yeah. Do you want to write it as a hobby, interest? Yeah, but can you read Spanish? Okay, then write. No, if you haven't given the no examination. Have you given an exam in Spanish? No, but if you have already given the examination, you write it. That you are going to give an examination later is no reason why you have to indicate it now there. Now look, this in no way is going to aid in your selection. It is only an extra piece of information. You write what is true. That the next choice which you have choice preference of service you have indicated will be allotted to you. After IPS, that for which medically if you are disqualified, then you will be allotted to IRS. The next preference that you have indicated. Which one?
Employment history.
History, yes.
If they have the other employment, yes, and then they go to ask government service or not or self-employed. But I've done internships and some of them have been paid internships. Should I mention this?
Yes, that if you had been paid a stipend while doing your internship, you can always mention it.
But I don't want to mention. I want to put extra.
You can leave it.
Taken as deception or something of that sort.
You want to write that internship against your hobby column,
Extracurricular.
extracurricular column. Yes, then there you can mention, and you don't have the guilt of withholding information. You are revealing it at a different place. You can do so. Yes.
So during my job, I have confirmed various technologies and projects, for example, installation of relays as an electrical engineer. So shall I mention it?
Do you think that you'll be able to talk well if questions are asked on that? Then you can mention. You can mention it. Yes. The thing is, what you write is not so important, but what you are going to answer on the questions that are set by the board based on your details, that is more important.
So in the past, I was a professional actor. Like I acted in Socio movies. So will it go in extracurricular?
Yes, you can always. You can know, you write it at the extracurricular activities, hobby column. It will be very impressive. Huh?
There's a Muslim friend of mine, and he's worked in Hindi. He asked me whether that my mother tongue as Hindi or Urdu.
It is his personal choice. I have seen many Muslim candidates writing Hindi as their language or Kannada or Tamil as their mother tongue.
If we picked up a hobby in the past 2 or 3 years,
Huh?
if we picked up a hobby in the past 2 or 3 years, does the hobby have to give continuation from the regular?
No, hobby does not have to be practiced continuously. Because of your exam preparation schedule, you might discontinue practicing hobby. For example, you have been collecting stamps as part of your hobby. In the last 2 years, you might not have collected any stamp, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the hobby of stamp collection. You can very well write it.
Was running in all of that.
Yeah, you can.
So choosing the language paper that we write, if you're from certain states, you are exempted.
Yeah, Arunachal Pradesh, etc. in the east.
But there should be a certificate that
Yeah, you have to produce a certificate that you belong to a particular state. The column is hailing certificate. You hail from Arunachal Pradesh. Without that, you will not be given the exemption from that language paper.
and so because it can be bundled together, is it possible to add the certificates in the later stage for the hobby which is for
Yes, all the certificates that you have in support of your entries in the hobby column can all be bundled into one and uploaded as a single PDF.
Can it be uploaded later?
Yeah, they can. No, I think you have to upload it along with the form. However, you do not have to upload any certificate in support of the entries that you make in the hobby column. The board is not going to do any clerical job. It will not ask for any certificates as proof of the hobbies that you have written. And the board will test you against what you have written in the hobby column only in the form of asking questions. So if you do not have hobbies to support your if you do not have certificates to support your hobby column, you can still write that hobby as against this hobby column. Yes.
I used to sell handmade items. I used to make them and I used to sell for preparation. So should I put it in hobby column or self-employed section?
If you had been selling it, you have to write it under the self-employment. If you distribute it free, huh?
It was not registered. It was not a company as such.
Yeah.
Because I saw that policy asking lawyer what was his status.
For example, if somebody has been teaching underprivileged children for free, it is written against the hobby column, interest column. Whereas if he had been collecting tuition fee, it has to be written under the employment column. And you need not have to have a registered company to show the income. You can as well say self-employed. Yes, that so long as it is a decent email ID, you can write it. Somebody wrote, I shouldn't mention it in a public, Hotmail in Hotmail. So that kind of fancy things don't write. NCC. But you can write A certificate, B or C certificate. Against subcolumn B, what is written there is sports/NCC. But you can also write your participation in NSS, Scouts and Guides, etc. related to that. They are all related to NCC sports. No need. As I said many times earlier, that you need not have to give any certificate as proof of the hobby column that you write. All right. So for any more details that for consultation, you please talk to the team. Thank you very much. All the best.